Hey, Mac. Can you say something for me? Somebody say something so I can test my volume.
Yeah, it sounds fine.
Okay. All right. You sound good too. Folks are logging on like crazy. Awesome, awesome, awesome. I hope y'all are doing well today. I've sat in this stupid desk chair so long for the last 2 days because of this isolating garbage that my back is now killing me. So that'll be good for y'all. You'll have some mercy. Okay, mercy's coming for y'all today. So I'm gonna pull up this information. Well, let me pull up this first. Okay. You should be able to see my screen, and it's got research project overview there on the screen. And if y'all would like to, if you'd like to log in to D2L, this information will come available immediately at 3:30. I think I set it to release at 3:30 today. So you're more than welcome to log in, and you can download your own copies of it if you'd like. But I'm just going to talk us through this. Since my back is absolutely killing me, and since the pro formas are due tonight, and there's 6 or 8 folks that haven't turned them in yet, I'm not going to keep y'all long. Nobody feels like they need a refund, do they? Y'all aren't going to talk to me?
Could you move us out of the way? Like I can't read it. I know it's about to come on.
Okay. So I can minimize you. How about that?
That'll work. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's the best I can do. I'm sorry, Brian. Unfortunately, there's a way. I don't know exactly what it is. Let's see, maybe if I don't make this full screen. I'm not the best at this. There is actually a way for me to line y'all up across the top, and that way we'll still have a view. Let's see, but I got to figure out how to. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Okay. I've got 3:30, so I'm going to jump right in. I will upload this lecture video immediately after class today, and you'll have this to refer back to. But as I mentioned to you in the email that I sent, those folks who are logged on right now, I'll go to the Zoom record and see who's logged on and how long you were there, and I'll give you your attendance points for being here because you're logged on right now. So my purpose for talking to you today, and I truly had hoped to give you chapter 13 lecture. I'm not up to it, quite frankly. My purpose for talking to you today is simply to give you an overview of the research project. And if you're done with your pro forma statements, you have full 2 weeks. You literally have today and 2 weeks from today to complete this. If you're not done with your pro forma statements, don't worry about this thing. Be working on those pro forma statements and get them turned in and start on the research project tomorrow. So essentially, you know, from the very beginning, I've talked about financial literacy and marketing as being the 2 most important things that entrepreneurs need to be about if they're going to be successful. And this is not really a market research project, but it will give you a very real world overview of what's involved in doing consumer research and getting reliable and valid information from customers. So what I have for you guys is a survey. And I want you to go out and deploy this survey. You're my labor on this survey. Quite frankly, you need to get 10 respondents, and needs to be 10 people in business. Those questions I'll go over with you in just a bit. Those questions do screen out people who aren't in business. So there's two options. There's a paper survey, which I'll show you in just a bit. And then there is the online survey. The online survey is the preferred option, because then we're not dealing with paper and you're trying to scan stuff and send it to me and all of that stuff. So if you could just have the respondents complete the survey online, or if you entered their results online, that's better for me. Academic integrity policies do apply. If I find out that somebody, just dummied up a bunch of responses to the survey, that's not going to help anybody. You may get by with it, but I'm pretty good usually at sniffing out cheaters. So just know that I have ways of looking at those responses and looking at the statistics on the responses and some preliminary results. If the data bears out what I think it's going to bear out, those preliminary results will show me who did not do the work, okay? So I want you to get 10 surveys. The estimated time to complete the survey is 9 minutes. Quite frankly, to get 10 people to answer the survey, you may have to talk to 20 or you may have to talk to 30. But the best way to administer this survey is to go directly to somebody, talk to them face to face, tell them who you are, give them a copy of the instructions for the survey, and then stand there and watch them do it. They can actually take a photograph of the first page of the survey. It's got the QR code. They'll take a photograph of that, and it opens up immediately in the survey that is optimized for mobile viewing. So let me show you what the survey actually is. I've got a cover sheet.
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
The entrepreneurs have to be in Wichita Falls, or
No, they
okay.
do need to be in the United States, though. Doesn't have to be in Wichita Falls. If you want to knock this out while you're on your Thanksgiving break, that's perfectly fine. You do it in your hometown, really doesn't matter, as long as they are located in the United States, because we want to stay with US dollars. One of the dimensions that I'm actually assessing in this survey is gender role. And those gender roles vary across cultures, so we need to keep it in a US context. That's the reason for US businesses.
Okay.
So this cover sheet that you see here, see if I can make that full screen. It gets really small, but the cover sheet, it essentially has a script. If you were to talk to somebody on the telephone, you could say, dear Mr. Johnson, my name is Scott Manley. I'm a student in the Dillard College of Business at MSU, Texas. It gives you a script that you can actually go by if you contact people via telephone. My recommendation is not to contact people via telephone, because the response rate when you contact them via telephone, them following up on it is poor. It's really, really poor. So it works better if you talk face to face. And that's going to give you a real world perspective on what it's like to do real research. So you have this as a cover sheet. If they open up the camera app on the phone, right, just take the camera app and point the camera app at the QR code. It will then ask if you want to open up the survey in Qualtrics.com, and it'll take them to a web browser where they can take the survey from their mobile device. It's just that simple to get to the survey. If they don't have a mobile device, or if they want to take it on paper, the survey follows, okay? If you complete the survey on the mobile device, don't worry about any of the stuff that comes after that, because the Institutional Review Board has approved the survey. This page gives them information about the IRB. If they want a copy of this information, give it to them. There's nothing wrong with them having this information. Please note that it's got my email address and my personal cell phone number throughout, as well as IRB information. and what their rights are. So we're not to the survey yet, and we're already on the 4th page, okay? The reason I have this page intentionally left blank on page 2 and page 4 is if you were to print these front and back, I don't want the survey to get mixed up with the information that you might tear off and give to the respondents. So on page 5, we actually start the survey. The very first question is, are you a current business owner? If they're taking it on a mobile device or on a desktop computer, if they answer no to that question, it's going to send them to the end of the survey. If they answer yes, it will let them see the rest of the questions, okay? So a no response is not going to give you any credit whatsoever. You need people who are in business. This first set of first set of statements that you see here, these statements have to do with entrepreneurial motivation. It has to do with the reason that people decide to become an entrepreneur. This is what we call a 5-point Likert scale. If you take it on a mobile device, it's going to show a little bit differently. But if they're filling it out on paper, they'll just put a check mark. I'm not reading it via Scantron or anything like that, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that they, fill in the bubble. Just mark it and it's perfectly fine. You'll note at the bottom of every page of the survey, I want your name. That's because if I wind up with a lot of paper sheets that I have to enter, I want to make sure that you guys get credit, okay? And so make sure you put your name on it. My preference, again, is not to wind up with a bunch of paper sheets, but it's to wind up with a bunch of responses that are entered into a database, okay? The next section has to do with entrepreneurial orientation. You've heard me talk about EO. That's the 5 dimensions of entrepreneurial orientation: innovativeness, proactiveness, risk-taking, competitive aggressiveness, and autonomy. These questions are on a 0 to 100 point scale, and we're just asking for their level of agreement with the statement. Within this, there's about 20 or so statements, okay? We're trying, specifically what I'm trying to do with this scale is I'm trying to adapt the existing entrepreneurial orientation scale to an individual context. The original EO scale is for corporate. This, I'm trying to adapt it for individuals, for their feelings. And we're looking at very small businesses here. Okay, again, you see your name. The next screen, this information in these 60 statements is the BIM. It's Sandra Bim is the researcher who developed the scale. It's called the BIM sex role inventory, and it has to do with perceived gender roles. Specifically, this is the reason that I'd like for you to only survey businesses in the United States, because culture depends on context, okay? So essentially, we're asking them to associate these characteristics or these terms with themselves. So, for instance, am I always self-reliant or am I never self-reliant? We don't want just a bimodal scale where we got always and never. So it's basically your level of agreement with that. And you can see those statements, okay? Obviously, you've got some gender stuff on there. There's a feminine, there's a masculine as well. There's some things that are closely associated with the male gender role, the female gender role. But it's a well-developed scale. It's been around for about 50 years. It's developed by a researcher named Sandra Bim. There's nothing threatening on it. We're just asking them, what do you believe about yourself with regard to these particular statements? So you see those 60 statements, and I know that's a lot, but essentially there's 20 items that measure masculinity. There's 20 items that measure femininity, and then there's 20 items that are considered androgynous. So when they answer those things, to analyze it, I break them down into the masculine, feminine, and androgynous, and then they get ranked on a scale of their masculinity or femininity. The reason I'm interested in doing this research, y'all, is that entrepreneurship has a very gendered context, is considered to be a masculine domain, although we know that the fastest growing segment of small business ownership is female small business owners. So that's the reason for the research, okay?
Dr. Mann, I have a question about the name at the bottom of each
Yep.
page. If they're doing it online, how do we put our name on it?
Yeah, I'll show you the online survey.
Oh,
in a
okay.
second. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, that's a great question, Mary. The very last question in the online survey is, what is the student's name? I'll show you.
Okay,
I'll show you
okay,
the
that's
online
fine.
survey in just a second.
Okay. Okay.
These 8 questions assess firm performance. In times like we're in right now, the traditional standard measures of firm performance do not work. The most established and most reliable measures of firm performance are growth in sales and growth in employment. And if we looked at those as measures of success in 2020, where every business more than likely has shrunk, depending on industry, every business looks bad. So this is a perceived performance scale. And specifically what we're asking is, how does the entrepreneur rate their performance compared to their competitors? So how are they with regards to growth in sales compared to the competitors? How are they in growth in profitability compared to competitors? It's a lot more reliable information than having hard numbers, because we know that hard numbers, they don't mean anything. In good times, they don't mean anything. And in times like these, they're almost impossible to interpret. So this is the firm performance issue. So if you will picture for me, I've got 3 domains that I'm trying to consider. We've got entrepreneurial motivation. In other words, what motivated people to become an entrepreneur? We've got entrepreneurial orientation, which is how are they related towards being an entrepreneurial firm? Then we have sex roles, using the BIM sex role inventory to assess the gendered nature of entrepreneurship. And we want to tie that to the 4th dimension, which is here, or our 4th construct under investigation. That's firm performance. All of those things have a direct relationship with firm performance. And we're just trying to see, I'm trying to see what the interplay is between those dimensions and how's it affecting businesses today. Okay. From there on out, the rest of the questions are simply demographic. We want to know what industry they're in, whether it's retail, wholesale, construction, services, manufacturing, or other. If it's a nonprofit, that's okay, although I typically don't like nonprofits in an entrepreneurship survey. Avoid them if you can. If it's a medical practice, sometimes people just don't really know where their business fits. A lot of people think that restaurants are in the service industry, and they're not. They're selling food, they're retail. Hotels are in the service industry. So if they don't know, they can just put other and then specify. We want to know about the age of the company. We want to know about total sales, and I have made a mistake on the survey, so I'll fix that. How much were your total sales? That should say in 2019. I will go in there as soon as this is done and change that document and save a PDF and replace this document. It's supposed to be, how much were your total sales in 2019? That's just an error that I did not catch. Okay. We want to know about how many employees they have, full-time and part-time, and we want to know about their biological sex, or what we would commonly call gender, and their personal age. All of that stuff is just demographic stuff. It's not designed to be threatening. It's just so that we can categorize and stratify the businesses. We want to know about their legal structure. Are they a sole proprietorship, LLC, corporation, partnership, and whether or not the business is home-based. And then at the very end, there's a thank you. Okay, so that's the paper survey. Y'all, I would love it if I get 0 paper. Okay, I would actually love it. Nothing better than if you just printed 1 of the cover sheet and took it, and every individual participant took the survey on their mobile device. That's the easiest way to do it, and it's quicker, and you don't have to worry about turning something in or losing something. I don't have to worry about rekeying that information. So let me show you what the online survey actually looks like, okay? Before I show you what it's going to look like on the device, let me make sure that I have the correct year here. Yep, I do have the correct year there. What were your total sales in 2019? Okay, so I'm going to pull up a preview of the survey. If they were to take the survey on a computer, what you see on the left-hand side of your screen is the way that it would look on a computer. And as we scroll down on the right-hand side of the screen, you see the way that it would be displayed on a phone, okay? So the first thing that we have to ask them is, do you understand your rights and do you agree to participate? If they say that they don't agree to participate, it's going to take them out of the survey, okay? So they have to consent. We'll ask about whether or not they consent, okay? Then it's telling me you've got to have a response to this. If I were to click, I do not agree, it would take me out of the survey, but because I'm clicking, I've read and understand that information, it takes me to the next screen. And you can see on this side what it looked like on a computer.
Can you
share?
skip back to the?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you. You should have said something sooner. Okay, do you see it now? You got it now?
Yes, I see it.
Okay, all right, awesome, thank you. I'm sorry. I forget to do that every time I change screens, and I forget that I have to reshare. Okay, so you see this is the IRB information, the Institutional Review Board, to make sure that we're not harming people. And here's the consent statement. They read the above information, they've had their questions answered, and that they understand the purpose, benefits, and risk. At any time, if they have a question, they need to call me, okay? This is my cell phone. I am happy to take their call and explain. And if anybody gives you any grief about taking the survey, just back out. There's plenty of fish in the sea, and it's not going to be difficult for y'all to come up with 10 respondents, okay? So if they're taking the survey on their phone, they have to answer this question. You see what happens when they answer it, it highlights their answer. The next step is, are you currently a business owner? If they answer no, it's going to take them out of the survey. By answering yes, they go to the next question. Simply because I know there sometimes is some overlap. You guys run in the same social circles. We don't want redundant responses. So we have to ask them if they've already completed the survey for somebody else. Now, if you guys spread out and scatter like you were shot out of a shotgun, obviously there would be no redundancy, but there's a good many of you that are going to stay around Wichita for the break, and you'll be around Wichita even though we're not officially on campus. So we ask this question. If they've already completed the survey, we don't want them answering. Okay, so the correct response here is no, I have not completed it. Then it takes them to the next section, okay? This section is entrepreneurial motivation. It shows a little bit different on a computer screen, as you see here, than it does on a phone, because this is what we call a matrix table. Each of these questions is listed individually, and they'll click and answer those questions individually, okay? So they would have to click through each of those individually. I will provide you with a link to the survey so that if somebody says, I'd rather take it on my desktop computer, I don't do mobile devices, you have that option, okay? I'll provide you that link. These questions have a forced response. That means if they don't answer the question, they won't be able to save their survey, okay? The next set of questions, this is entrepreneurial orientation. This is what we call a slider scale, 0 to 100. If you'll recall, when we looked at the survey, at the actual survey document, if you'll recall, I simply asked them to tell me on a 0 to 100 what they thought about that, okay? Let me scroll up and show you here. On the paper survey, it was 0 to 100, tell me your level of agreement. It looks different when it's on a computer. When it's on a computer, that's what we call a slider, and they'll select it side to side on their mobile device. Don't worry about getting it. If I 91% agree with this statement, it doesn't matter if they click exactly 91 or if they're at 88. Okay, just the level of agreement. Okay, this is entrepreneurial orientation. The next scale, this is the BIM sex role inventory, that very old, 1973 is when that scale was developed. So just level of agreement on these characteristics. We're asking people to rate themselves on each item from a scale of 1 to 7, never true to always true. And get past that, got the exact same stuff. This is firm performance. Then we have, what industry do you compete in? When was your company established? How much their sales were in 2019? Number of employees. We've got full-time and part-time broken out as 2 questions on this survey. That's a little different than the paper survey. Then we give them a chance to answer their biological sex. And last time I checked, most of us have one of those. They may not identify it, but we're looking at sex roles and gender roles and biological sex. So they'll need to identify as one or the other. Okay. We'll ask folks what year they were born. We also ask them what year their company was founded. Okay. Ask them how the business is organized. Ask them if it's home-based. Mary, here's your question. Okay. The name of the student who asked you to take the survey, that's where they will enter your name. Okay. Now I'm going to hit next. It gives me this pink. The problem is I didn't answer any of these questions. They are all forced response questions. As you'll see, all of them are pink. If they don't respond to all of the questions, the survey doesn't count. I can't use the data and I can't give you credit, okay? So this needs to be folks that you have a little bit of a rapport with, that you can help to feel comfortable. You can talk about what you've been learning in the class. This is more than just going out and getting a survey response from somebody. This is actually letting you get face-to-face with real entrepreneurs and try to figure out what's going on in their head, okay? Now, one last thing that I'll say about the survey before I leave the online survey versus the paper survey. In the online survey, if you enter these items yourself, you're going to have a little bit of an issue with it, okay? Because when you click the image on the sheet of paper to go to the survey, these scale items, these scale questions are randomized. Every time somebody goes into the survey, they're going to see a different set of responses. The reason that we randomize those items is something called survey fatigue, right? We don't want straight line respondents. It's one of the things we do to quality check the data. We don't want survey fatigue. So those items are going to be randomized. If you enter that information, if they fill out a paper survey and you enter that information, make sure that you're entering the right attribute. I don't have a paper copy printed in front of me, but let me take a look at the survey really quick. So on the paper survey, the first item, for example, is self-reliant. The items go self-reliant, yielding, helpful, depends on beliefs. So you've got independent, happy, likable, agreeable, or excuse me, aggressive, theatrical, depends on beliefs. You see they're in a different order. Do you see now why I say it's best to have the respondent complete the survey rather than you going back and entering or me going back and entering it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. I've made y'all come back so that I can see your faces. Okay. So this is the online survey. Okay. The nice thing about doing an online survey is when it's done, all I have to do is download the data, and it's in a data file. It'll give me the coding that I need. Everything's good, and I can run the stats on it, and maybe even give you guys some preliminary results on the survey, or share them with you after the first of the year, certainly by emailing the class. As I said, the purpose of this is not for y'all to be labor. The data is really ancillary. The learning exercise is for you to get in front of entrepreneurs and figure out what's going on inside of their head, and for you to figure out how hard it is to get people to give you real information. It's not as easy as it sounds, but when you start thinking about people that you know that own businesses, given that approximately 1 out of 8 people in the United States is self-employed, it's pretty easy to find entrepreneurs to take the survey. Questions about this?
Yes. If we send out a link or something, how would we know how many people took it for us? Would we get
That's definitely an issue. Okay, and I addressed that in the instructions. Let me share this. Okay, let me get this over here and do a new share. Okay, so I say specifically, Camilla, that's a great question. Thank you. You'll engage at least 10 entrepreneurs. You can check in with me at any time to see how many respondents you have. Okay, if they've entered it into the database and you call me and say, Dr. Manley, I think I've got 10 respondents. Can you check for me? I can answer that question. The safest way of knowing that you have 10 respondents is standing there watching them. If you call folks and send them a link, my experience, you've got about a 1 in 3, maybe a 1 in 4 shot of them actually doing the survey for you. So what that means is you're going to wind up spending more time hounding them, trying to get them to complete the survey than you would if you actually went and visited with them face to face. But that's a really good question, and it's better to oversample than to undersample. Make sense? Okay. Any other questions?
Question, what if you can't get 10 people? Like, is there like a penalty or something? Like,
Well, I'm not going to penalize you. I'm simply not going to reward you. So this is like everything else that we do. This is an earn your grade kind of deal. For every response that you get that is valid and passes the data check, you're going to earn 20 points. Now, keep in mind that you can earn up to 200 points, and 200 points is 20% of your grade going into the final exam. So if you can't get 10 entrepreneurs, if you had, let's say that you had a perfect score on every quiz that has been taken, a perfect score on the pro forma assignments, and you had never missed a class. Those are the things that you've been graded on so far, right? You could get by technically with just 5 respondents. You see what I'm saying? Because that would give you 100 points, and you'd still have 900 points in the class, and you'd have an A and wouldn't have to take the final. I don't really think that it's going to be that difficult to get people to respond to the survey if you will develop some rapport and talk to people and carry it out in the spirit and intent of the assignment. But that's a good question. I don't penalize you. I just simply don't give you the points. You just didn't earn the points if you don't get the responses. Does that answer the question, Chanel? Okay, thank you. Good question. Anybody else?
I think I know the answer to this, but
Okay.
200 is the max.
200 is the max.
Okay.
Yeah, 200 is the max.
Okay. Just thought I'd ask.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the max that you can earn.
Okay, no worries.
But if you have questions, Mary, about whether or not you're getting, so you may have one or two people that say, hey, I promise you I'll take the survey. Let's say that your dad, for instance, is self-employed. I said dad because my dad's ringing me on my phone right
Oh,
now.
no.
But if your dad says, I'm going to answer it, and you have a question about, do you have enough respondents? Again, just pick up the phone and call me.
Okay.
And I'll let you know who has responded or if people have responded. I can't tell you who has responded because if you'll recall in the survey, there's no place for me to ask their name.
That's true.
If they have any question about anonymity or confidentiality, just show them, hey folks, there is absolutely no identifying information whatsoever in this survey.
Gotcha.
We want it to be as non-threatening an experience as possible for them. And the reason to do that is that makes it easier for you to get valid information.
Right.
Okay, thank you, Mary. That's a good question.
No, thank you.
Ashley, did you get done with your meeting with your favorite professor? Okay, do you have any questions? Okay. Other Ashley, you good?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, let's see. Aaliyah, you good? Okay. Maria, Sky, Ranella?
Yes, I'm good.
Well, thank y'all for logging in. I will upload this video. It's pretty self-explanatory, but I will upload the video so that you'll have it to refer back to. And if you have any questions, text me or call me or email me. Lord willing, if my wife's COVID test comes back negative, we're planning on leaving Monday afternoon, heading to Georgia. So remember, you got to walk on Monday. You don't get relief from doing the work. That just gives you some time to actually go out and do the work. So Lord willing, we're going to be in Georgia, but I'll have cell phone service and text message service and access to email. It'll be just like I am today. So, okay.
Well, I hope everything works out okay with her.
Thank you. Thank you. It's always scary anytime you've been exposed or think you've been exposed, but hopefully she'll turn out okay. I just hate it if she is positive, not because anything other than we want to spend time with the family. This will be the first time in 6 years that we've seen them at Thanksgiving and our daughter's birthday. So,
Oh, wow.
all right, guys. Well, y'all stay safe, take care of yourselves, and go out and get these surveys. And if you hadn't finished up your pro formas, turn those rascals in, and I'll have grades for you, hopefully by the end of the weekend.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All righty. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Dr. Manley, I have a quick question.
Okay. Yeah, it's okay.
COGS, the cost of goods sold, is it if my thing, I have the flat rate of $10 for the USB drive.
Right.
So how would that convert into, like, how would I just name it on there? Like, if
Yeah.
it's,
So for every job that you do that includes giving somebody a USB drive, let me pause the recording or let me stop the recording. I will stop. Okay. Okay.